Hey, it's Glendon Cameron with the American Hustler Podcast. But before we get into it, let's pay some bills, baby. If you want to improve your hustler mindset, get a copy of my audiobook, The Hustler Mindset, Pimping Your Mind for Success. This week's topic is going to be about something that we all know about. We've all experienced it. If you're just a person living life, this happens. If you're a business owner, this happens sometimes every week, sometimes a few times a day. And what I'm talking about is renewing faith in yourself and renewing your optimism. Because right now, it's the summer. Many people are experiencing what traditionally is a slowdown. And I got to really thinking about that concept because each year, because I put up a video recently, how to treat your business as a startup, I would sit down and revamp my business, look at the numbers from the previous year and to see if I was gaining ground or losing ground. And I came up with something a little different this year. Because each year I go to the lab and I look at stuff. And this year I just decided that the summer was not going to be slow. I was just like, you know what? This summer's not going to be slow. I'm going to treat my business like a startup, because when you treat your business like a startup, it doesn't matter when you start it, because if it's a startup, it grows and it grows and it grows. And part of growth is sales. So I was like, And I actually did that, came up with some new products, and I have many more. And I experienced growth and I experienced more sales doing historically what is a slow period for me. And I realized that I just kind of accepted the fact that it was going to be slow when really it didn't have to be slow. And, my publishing media business is still relatively new. It's about 3 years old, and I'm still learning a lot about it. But part of that journey was renewing my optimism and renewing my faith in myself, because everything starts with mindset. A friend of mine on Facebook, they put out that June was his best month ever, and the guy's been in business, I think, 10, 15 years. And last year he was, he identified and isolated the problem. He was reading the doom and gloom headlines. He was getting way too political on Facebook, and he just chilled on that and put that time, effort, and energy into his business. And after a decade of being in business, June, historically, which is a slow period for him, it is the best month he ever had. Now, what does that tell us? Number one, if you're having a slow period, you're doing something wrong, unless you're in the seasonal business. If you're in a seasonal business, you run a cabana stand on the beach, okay, that makes sense. Or if you're selling something that's a very seasonal product. But if you're selling a commodity or service that people use year-round, you have to identify, why do things slow down in the summer for you? And what I did, and the thing is, I usually took the summer as a laboratory time. It's like, hey, we're going to try some new stuff. We're going to create some new products. This time I said, it's the laboratory. But, as I start the year off, 2013, the hustler mindset, massive activity, we're going to do the lab and we're going to do the marketing and we're going to really push. And how I got there was renewing my faith and optimism. Because this is the thing. Everything that you do, whether it's a personal relationship with your kids, relationship with your wife, business relationship, church relationship, it all starts and ends with mindset. And even if the person that you have your relationship with or you're interacting with has a piss poor mindset, your mindset can help you weather that storm. So how did I get to the point of renewing my optimism? Once again, it goes back to goals. Because one of the things that happens to many entrepreneurs is a lot of us are kind of fly by the seat types, and we really just want to get started and just go out there and make that money. And you may have some loosely defined goals all up in your head. And I'm going to just tell you the power of goals, because I was cleaning up my office and I looked at my whiteboard, which is like right in front of my desk. Every time I sit in my chair, I have to look at the whiteboard. And I started noticing all these blank spots. And it was just like, and there's some more stuff I had to clean off. And I realized that except for the income number, which I had aimed really high, I didn't make it, but I got kind of close. Everything on that board happened because it was written down and I had to look at it all the time. This is a form of subliminal programming into your subconscious. Because I sat there, all the book titles, and I was like, wow, all that stuff came to be. There was only one thing that I missed, and there was like 30-some things on the board, and 29 went down the way they were supposed to, and the 30th, not meeting that income goal, because like I said, I ain't real high. And I was like, wow, and I was sitting there kind of stunned, because I did that last year. I did it last May, and within a year's time, 29 of those things happened. So in my mind, what I need to do now is write 60 or maybe 90 things and put them on that board. Because the simple act of writing them down, coming up with a plan, executing, reminding yourself of your goals gives you power beyond belief. And what this has to do with renewing your faith and optimism. Because when I talk to entrepreneurs, because I had 2 really good consults this week, there was some stuff that we had talked about previously, like 6 months ago, and we talked again. And I think part of my job is when I'm working with someone is to remind them of the good things they're doing. Not so much like, oh, no, this is wrong. Because you can build on good stuff and you can get rid of bad stuff. So you already have some elements there. And what I did is went into my business and it's like, okay, what's really working? What's really not? And there was more things that were working than not, but we tend to focus and dwell on the stuff that's not working, because I was completely oblivious that 29 things out of 30 went down. I knew kind of sort of that they were happening. It's kind of like when you gain fat. Fat doesn't just like come up, 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds, whatever. It doesn't just come to your door like, hey, I'm here. Hold on. And it jumps on you. No, what happens is fat's like a roach. You get that one little fat cell and it kind of like sneaks in and you see it and you're like, whatever. And then the fat cell's a ninja fat cell, because then it calls out all these other ninja fat cells. And it's like, okay, this is the deal. I came in, right? Okay. So 2 of you come in, just 2, no more than 2. And then 3, then 4. And before you know it, it's like, whoa, it's been an invasion. And that's how success happens. It's incremental. You don't know it's happening if you do not track it. I want you to think about that. Success and failure both usually happen gradually. There are times that something like a huge meltdown would happen with your business, or a market will do a sudden shift, like this new product that comes out that renders your product 100% obsolete. Okay, that happens. But for most of us, it's a gradual thing in either direction. You become successful over the period of time, or shit goes downhill, but it's really just going downhill step by step by step. So part of renewing optimism is the goals and tracking and measuring those goals on a frequent basis. Because when you're getting depressed, and we all have those days where we're sitting down and it's just like, man, this shit ain't working. And why? Because we're focusing on the things that are not going well, and we're oblivious to the things that are going well. So if you are tracking your progress and you have daily goals or weekly goals, and I have sheets all over the place, and every now and then I have to clean off my desk and put them together. And every time I do that, it's like, wow, this is done, this is done, this is done, this is done. And as I look at all those things that were done, my self-esteem goes up a notch. And it's like, oh, okay. Because in my world, maybe not yours, but in my world, self-esteem and high self-confidence originate from accomplishment, not because I feel really good or someone tells me I'm the shit. That's nice to hear, and we should do that for each other. But bedrock, straight up, unshakable confidence comes from consistent accomplishment. When you get that confidence, because, give you an example. My first book, and, talk about there was errors, there was issues and stuff, but that book helped people. It really helped people. I got the letters to prove it, and the fact that people who bought that first crappy book have bought the better books as they came out. And that gave me confidence, because a lot of, in the writing world, it's like if you put out something bad, that's the end of your writing career. No, you can never, ever get past that. It's like you're toast for life. It's just, oh, God. And I don't have that mindset. I have the mindset of, hey, you fucked up. Okay, what did we learn from this fuck up? Okay, let's do it again. Oh, that didn't work. Let's do it again. Oh, that didn't work. Let's do it again. That didn't work. Let's do it again. That didn't work. Let's do it again. Oh, shit, that worked. Okay, now do something else. That's my mindset, not that you only got one shot. I never really subscribed to that mindset. I always thought it was limiting. I thought it was definitely not in my best interest. So, with that, knowing that you have goals, you're tracking your goals, and you develop the mindset that if something doesn't go right, it's not the end of the world. And that is one of the things that debilitates many people. It's like, oh God, I made this mistake. I went out and started this business. My family told me it was going to fail. Now my mother's going, see, I told you should have went to college. You'd be a success right now, like your sister who's upstairs in the second bedroom, and that bitch has not left in 4 years, but she's a success because she has a degree, and you're a failure because your business isn't doing well, even though you haven't lived with us for many years. Understand that happens all of the time, because everyone has their own narrative of what success is and what success is not. And narrative is not dependent upon reality. That's one thing you should understand. If you're dealing with someone and they have a strong narrative and you have factual evidence, proof that that narrative is false, but they will argue you to the end of the earth that that narrative is positive, because it is deeply embedded and it's ingrained in who they are. And if you attack the narrative, you attack the person. And that's one of the things that I had to really learn how to pull back, because everyone is not intellectually capable of having a conversation about a touchy subject without it becoming hostile. And very few people can do that. I've got a few people on Facebook. We can have discussions about anything. And one thing I learned is not to do it on the wall. We just do it through email and private message. And, there's rich conversations. There's a lot of discovery, and it goes on because we may not agree with each other, but we respect each other and we respect each other's intellect. Whereas when you have open cafeteria conversation on the net, all it takes is 2, 3, or 4 fools to interrupt, and then the whole topic can be steered into fuckery. I see it all the time. That's one of the reasons that I do delete and block people from my YouTube channel, because there's people who've been there for years that don't agree with me, but they do it in a respectful, decent manner, and they realize I don't have all day to go back and forth with them on the issue. So you could disagree with me, but if you're just going to be an asshole, I am going to boot you from the reservation and cancel your visa and passport. And you can't come back anymore because it's not productive. It's not like, oh, I can't take criticism, but there are people who have extremely too much time on their hands. And if you're truly a busy person, and that's another thing about renewing optimism, increasing your faith in yourself, is if you know that you have put in the work. Understand, when you put in the work, you know that you put in the work, that you have been there, that you have paid your dues, that when other people were partying or hanging out, you were working. Over a period of time, that adds up to success. So That's another thing about your self-esteem. A lot of times people don't have really good self-esteem is when they're not doing the proper things for themselves. And they know in their little janky heart of hearts that they haven't done the proper thing. They haven't put in the time. Like there are many people that want to be writers, but it's really odd, and I've seen it for many years, they don't write. It's like, yeah, I want to be a writer. I have this book in me, right? Well, when's the last time you wrote? About 6 months ago. Okay, taking a break, hey? When's the last time you wrote before that? Oh, about 6 months ago. I just write when the muse hits me. And see, my whole thing is I am a ninja. I put on my ninja hat, my ninja shoes, my ninja costume, and I go through the darkness and I find that muse. I don't care if the muse is in the cave. I don't care if the muse is at the bottom of the sea. I find that bitch and put my ninja lasso on it and drag it back to the lair and like, muse me. Let's do this. I don't wait for it to come to me. I go to it wherever it may be. And that's part of developing that optimism and that faith, because you are in action. You're active. You're doing it. You're not waiting for success to come to you. You are going where you need to go to gain success. And that's another reason that people become depressed. I've been waiting and waiting on Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. Waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And he ain't shown up. Lord, why have you forsaken thee? And the thing is, and this is a belief of mine. I mean, it may kind of push a button or two, but so be it. This is the American Hustler podcast. We do things like that. I believe when you're born, you have everything you need to be successful. Yeah, there you come out, wah! You get spanked on the ass if they do that anymore. You have it there. And as you matriculate into a person and you face those fears and you take those hard challenges, you open up like a gift box of a new resource or a new power, And when you do that hard work, you build yourself up in more ways than you can imagine. So I don't think that things just come to us so much as we prepare ourselves and go to them. I like, for me, the narrative of going to success, not waiting for success to come to me or to find me, but to do the hard work, to put together plans, formulas, these things that will ensure that I will be more successful next month than I am this month. That is very faith building, because you're not a victim. You're not just sitting back going, hey, success, why have you deserted me? You're going, hey, success, you can run, you can hide, but I'm going to find your ass. You understand? I'm going to find your ass because I am determined. I have energy and enthusiasm. I'm not sitting back waiting for you. I don't care how fast you run. I don't care what you do. I am going to get you. And when you develop that hustler, hunter mindset, it becomes a different ball game. Life is a totally different ball game. Because when you wake up and success is not sitting at your door, you're not worried because you know you got to go out there and get success. But when you are sitting there hoping and wishing and waiting for things to be just right, your self-esteem, it plummets, and your faith, it goes down. And because what you're doing is becoming stagnant. Positive energy begets positive energy. You must be moving. You must be in action. I put up a video, I don't know, a few months ago, and it was about something I noticed that when I started with Conundrum Publishing, there was a lot of people that I knew of. They wanted to start businesses. There was a bunch of stuff, and it was like about 200. And out of the 200, only 6 have went forward. And that, just to use that, and it's myopic, it's a very small sample group, but I think if a research was done on it, if you could somehow poll people and say, hey, do you want to start a business? And people go, yeah, I want to start it. Yeah, Referrals, Scooby, yeah, I want to start. And then if you followed those people for 5 years, and then if you looked at the number of people who said they wanted to start a business, and you actually got to the ones who started one, whether they failed or were successful, it still counts. It's going to be probably 5%. That's a small number. There's a lot of talented people out there who don't have the faith and the ability, because unless you take action, nothing's going to happen. And I want you to think about it. In every segment of your life, from sports, your relationships, the people who take the most action seem to have the best self-esteem. I'm not talking about that faux self-esteem, or stuff you get from participation trophies. That's right. We're going to give everybody on the team a participation trophy. Even that fat kid who didn't even show up for practice half the time. Even that sucker over there who actually took plays off. Everyone's getting the participation trophy. Now, see, I grew up in the era of you got called out if you took a play off. I mean, seriously, we're sitting there, game tapes rolling, and they're like, why are you coasting, Glendon? I mean, you run faster than that. I've seen it many times. You took that play off. Don't let that shit happen again. Yo, Isaac, what the fuck were you doing? I mean, some people call that harsh or too rough. I call it character building. I mean, seriously, it was true. I took that play off because I was tired, because I didn't condition myself. I didn't prepare myself. I got called out. Next practice, guess who's running extra laps to build up that conditioning? Back then, I had the mind of a child. I was like, I'm being punished, when really, no, they were trying to help me. They were trying to help me develop the stamina so I would have the energy and the physical conditioning so I wouldn't be taking plays off because I was tired. I mean, if you saw the last NBA Finals with San Antonio and the Heat, Game 7, they didn't have the conditioning. LeBron they just like, take that shot, and he was hitting every last one. He had the conditioning. I think they just went too far in the tank in Game 6, and they didn't have any more. And when it got down to crunch time, it was gone. And that's comes from preparing. The conditioning for the NBA Finals of 2014, it starts right now. It doesn't start at the beginning of the finals. It starts right now. Just like with your business, for your business to be successful in 2014, you need to start right now. It's not going to happen in 2014. It's going to happen in 2013, which goes back to goals, which goes back to having a plan, which goes back to tracking your goals, which goes back to being active. So this is how you fill your optimism tank and your faith tank, by taking small steps and becoming an accomplishment junkie. I don't care if on your task sheet is 6 things, and one of them is to clean up the house, wash your car, do whatever. If at the end of the day, 5 of those things are done, then the next day you roll over that thing that wasn't done and you put 5 more. Over the period of time, you develop a habit of accomplishment and success that can matriculate to other areas of your life. Just like, a friend of mine, well, actually not a friend, someone I used to date years and years ago. She said this, and I found this to be true. She's like, there was this girl, and she called this girl her therapist at the job. She said, when your desk is all jacked up, your life is all jacked up. So clean up your desk, and then you'll clean up your life. And we were dating, we were kind of having some problems. And she was telling me about this. And when I would deal with her and it wasn't a pleasant experience, I was just like, T, is your desk messed up? Yeah, what? And she's like, yeah, it is. The next day she would go, I know it sounds kind of crazy. Next day she would go clean up her desk, make sure everything was ordered. And she was easier to deal with. And I think because her desk represented, because she was a really driven person, her desk represented something that wasn't right, and it bugged her, and she couldn't let it go. And you may be like that. So the only way that you can deal with situations like that is to handle it, not letting it go. But hey, if I don't handle this, I'm going to be a maniac. I'm going to be not so easy to deal with because I feel I'm letting myself down. And then that spreads to everyone else that's connected to you because you're not handling your business. And I mean, everyone's different, but I think that will apply to many other people. So by putting your goals together, and I'm telling you, it's a powerful thing. I've done it for years, and I'm going to continue to do it. Writing down your goals gives you power. Creating a plan gives you more power. Taking actions as soon as you can towards those goals gives you even more power. So you put the three together, you can do more in a year than some people do in a lifetime. I'm telling you, it's crazy. Like with writing, people are just like, oh God, writers are putting out 2, 3, 4 books a year. Oh my God, what the hell are they doing? I'm going to give you the math on that. 250 words a day in a 365-day calendar is 90,000 plus words. The typical big novel is 70,000 to 90,000 words. So let's do the math on that. Okay, 250 words a day. Unless you are just incredibly slow, your name is Tippy the Tortoise. I mean, say you're brand new to writing. Say it takes you an hour to write those 250 words. Okay, just say it takes you an hour. An hour of your day for a year gets you a book. Let's say you're adventurous. You're going to do 3 hours a day. 750 words. That's 3 books in a year. 3 books. 3 hours a day. See, this is the thing. Anyone that tells you they're a writer and, it's like, many writers do not consistently write. And there's debate. Stephen King says you should write every day. There's other people like, hey, I can't do that. And once again, it's this whole thing that I'm going to do what works for me. I do that, but then again, as a lot of times I forced myself to do things that weren't working for me because what works for me is not good enough for me. And when you get to that level where you're saying, hey, I need to get rid of what works for me because what's working for me is not good for me. There's the difference of doing your best and then doing what's necessary. Those are 2 different concepts. And there's a lot of people like, I did my best. And, I'm going to break it to you. And I'm not going to say I hate to break it to you. I'm going to break it to you because you may need to hear this. Sometimes your good enough is not, your best is not good enough. You may need to seriously step up your game. Your best needs to get better. My best in 2009 when I wrote my first book, it's not good enough today. I can't do what I did in 2009. It has to be better. I have to step my game up. I realize I have to step my game up every year. Every year, I've got to step my game up. I have to. This is the disruptive new economy. It doesn't go like, well, your best is good. No, it says, fuck you. I need something better. And like Stephen King, Walter Mosley, there are many successful writers with 2, 3, and 4, and 5 decades who say write every day. And then there are people who are nowhere near as successful as these people are and never will get close. I'm like, I'm not going to write every day because that does not work for me. So here you have not 1, not 2, not 3, but hundreds of really successful writers saying, hey, you need to write every day. Now, what they said, and I remember because Walter Mosley did a NPR interview, and he was just like, give yourself an hour, and you even have a word goal. Like I have word goals. And it's like, what happens at the end of that hour is that's it. And he said like 600, 700 words. And I'll tell you, when I'm blazing, when I'm on a topic, like one of the reasons, one of the reasons I can write so fast on certain things is I already know the subject matter very well. And when I'm working on something that I really, really know well, I can do 1,500, maybe 2,000 words an hour. And that's just straight humming because I don't have to think. I'm pretty much just downloading information into the computer screen. So, but other day I was working on some, I was just struggling. And at the end of the hour, it was only 800 words. And it was a struggle. It was just like going through mud. But once again, slow progress is better than no progress, because even at 800 words an hour, if I did that every day, that's still 3 books a year. That's a lot of productivity. And what it takes is sitting down and applying yourself consistently on things that you perhaps maybe don't want to do because they don't work for you. Get away from you, because a lot of times you are the reason that you are not successful, because what works for you is so comfortable that you refuse to let it go to grab something that will be better for you. And that's about faith and optimism, because we all know who we are. You know, the other day I was in the gym and I was getting ready to punk out on a set of reps. I had 345 on my back. I did 2 reps. I knew I could do more, and I had to condition the mind, condition the body, and I was like, okay, and I did 2 more, and that last one was a bitch, but that last one that was a bitch is the one that I'm going to grow from. Because if I only did those 2, I was going to be working within my capacity, and I wasn't really going to grow. I got benefit, I got maintenance benefit, but I wasn't going to really jump up to the next level because I didn't do that rep that really did the building. And that's what you have to do. You have to push. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, because sure, you'll make a mistake and your esteem and faith will take a little hit. It will. But when you hit that successful stride that will come from taking those hits, it will easily replace those nicks and dings. You'll be like, yeah, that was nut. I shrugged that off. Yeah, that was just a hiccup. You get that. So if you want to really, really renew your faith and really, really build your optimism, have your goals. Have big, bold plans. Not, I'm doing 500 this week. I want to do 550 next week. No. Crank it up to 750, 800, 1,000. You want it to excite you. And then when you get close, crank it up again. Even if, it's like, I was doing it out. If you hit 950, crank it up to 1,500. You hit 9, crank it up. Because it's a grind and you'll need to take vacations, but it's that pushing that will expand your capabilities and expand your limits. And you'll get stronger and you'll be able to do more with less. And that's when the self-esteem and the optimism and the faith building happens. When you're like, man, a few months ago, this shit was kicking my ass. And it's like, I could do this with one hand behind my back. Do you feel good about yourself because you weathered the storm, you did those hard things, and you got better? That builds faith. Because one of the things I learned, and it's real easy for me to have faith in other people, is because I have faith in myself. What you do not possess is very hard for you to appreciate or even be able to treat appropriately, because you don't know how to deal with it. And I didn't learn that lesson until later in life. So as you build your faith, you increase your faith for others. It's an odd relationship, but trust me, it works. So check that out. Listen to these podcasts, not 2, 3, but 10 times. Because each time you listen, you're going to get something a little different. And, build that faith, build that optimism, work hard, and be happy with yourself when you worked hard. Because doing your best over and over again will increase your best. So sometimes you got to push out. You got to go to the limit, and you may, like I said, like guy in the gym today, he went for 315 for 5 reps. That 5th rep said, no mas belt and Pablo. It wasn't happening. He had the safety racks, but I commended him for pushing, because next time he's probably going to get it, because he's going to that limit and he's doing the building reps in that hard, sweaty, hot, difficult place that's where real success lives. All right, this is Glendon Cameron, and I will see you on the good side.